Morning. My passage is continuing on 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 14 through to chapter 13, verse 4. And again, not the easiest passage, but there are just a few points that I wanted to challenge us about today. So, to remember the context of this chapter, the Corinthians have been listening to false prophets, and one of the things that the false prophets had alleged was that Paul was swindling them out of money, and Paul is challenging them to change their way of thinking, to look at the evidence before his next visit to them. And whilst, as I've said, I didn't find this passage easy, there are a couple of things that have just led me to think about a couple of things, and just that I wanted to share with you. One was a reminder that being in church family isn't always easy. But that God and Jesus have called us to be in community together and to work through the difficulties that sometimes exist. And you'll see that at the end of that section, it talks about Paul being a bit worried about going to Corinth, that he'll be disappointed, that they'll be disappointed, that there'll be jealousy, there'll be people slagging each other off, and there won't be harmony. And, you know, if you've been around a church for a while, you'll know that it's not the Garden of Eden, but it is worth fighting for unity, and it's worth fighting for the family that God has put us in. There's a couple of nice lines in here reminding us of how mighty God's power is. There's a lovely section there about Paul loving too much because they're his children. And that it's the parents' responsibility for loving and caring for their children. And I was thinking some of that, reflecting on that in the natural sense. Some of you will know that our daughter Anna is just moving out into a flat on her own with a friend, leaving the family nest, and and that those feelings of, oh my goodness, as a parent, wanting everything to be perfect for her, and spending days and weeks making sure that everything is perfect for her. And we feel like that for our natural children and our spiritual children. And for our spiritual children, we are wanting to always point them to God, to point them to Jesus, to challenge them to read the Word, to challenge them to keep their hearts soft to the Holy Spirit. Those are just a couple of my reflections. I hope you found them helpful as you read the passage.